Hello everyone. In this video I will try to explain how differently we write lead for both the print and the broadcast media. So as we all know that lead is the very first sentence that tries to attract the attention of the reader. It is the first sentence that we start our structure for any news story with. Whether it is for the print media in newspaper or whether it is for the television writing, it is no doubt that we write lead for both the media, but they are very much different from one another, and I will try to explain that how are they different from each other. Firstly, we know that the very basic elements, and that actually forms the very integral part of the news media writing, is about 5 W's and 1 H, and this appears in the very lead of the newspaper writing, whereas if you follow the very lead of the broadcast media, if you are writing for the television news, it is not possible that you write or that you include all the 5 elements or 6 elements, 5 W's and 1 H, in the very lead of the television writing for the script of the television, the news for the broadcast media. You do not write in the very lead, you do not include all the 5 H and 5 W's and 1 H. So you only include a part of 5 W's and 1 H. The most important element, the most important information among the 5 W's and 1 H are again selected among them, and then that is put into the lead of the broadcast media, whereas it do not happens in the same manner for the print media writing. In the print media writing, in the very lead, you will find that all the 5 W's and 1 H are tried to include by news reporter. Secondly, the very lead of the print media, it is usually lengthy. It may count from 30 to 35 words, whereas the same is is not possible in case of the broadcast media writing. For a copy, if you write for the television news, then 35 words in the very lead, it do not go by the listener, because we for the television news writer, they write for the ears, and it is not possible for the listener to to receive or to get all the informations, or to get such a lengthy sentence in one go. So they divide the sentences into half. It's possible, and it is very much followed that half of the 35 words are being used in the lead of the broadcast media writing. Number three, for the print media writing, it can be or not it is noticeable, and most of us have followed that in the newspaper you will find that the lead is preceded by a deadline, and the deadline is followed by a location, and then it is followed by a lead. Whereas in the broadcast media, a broadcast news report, it may begin with a location, with the description of the location in itself. So this is one of the difference, where in the print media it begins with the deadline, whereas in the broadcast media it begins with the location. When I say it is about the lead. So the lead begins with the deadline in the print media, and the lead begins with the location in the broadcast media. Number four, the very lead of the print media is always descriptive in nature. You will find that the very context of the entire story and the ongoing situation are described so well at the very lead of the print media writing, whereas it is not possible in case of the broadcast media writing, because in the broadcast media writing you will find very fewest details, and the remaining portions of the informations are left for the succeeding paragraphs. An example has been given here in case of the print media writing, how it follows a descriptive nature of lead. Let's find out. After a 6-month investigation into the charges of corruption in the Pine City Attorney's Office, Pine County Attorney William Anderson today requested a grand jury hearing, whereas the same lead is being, when it is written for a broadcast, media, how does it look? Let's find out. The Pine County Grand Jury has been asked to look into charges of corruption in the Pine City Attorney's Office. So you'll not find the mention of the investigation, you'll not find the mention of the duration. So all this information, even you'll not find the name of the Pine County attorney. So you'll not find all this information in the very lead of the broadcast media writing, because those are left for the succeeding paragraphs. Whereas in the print media writing, the news reporter, the print media writer, they try to include every information, 5 Ws and 1 H, in the very lead, and that is why it is called descriptive in nature, whereas the broadcast media is not. Number 5, in print media, the lead starts from the very unfamiliar point, and then it goes to the familiar part. For example, it starts with a very strange figure, a strange person, and then it tries to familiarize people, the very unfamiliar one, at the very lead of the sentence, and then it goes to the familiarity, right? Whereas it is very opposite in case of the broadcast media writing. You'll not find that the broadcast in any news channel, or in any reporter of the television news channel, you'll not find that they will start with an unfamiliar or a strange explaining of any place, location, person, event, incident, anything. In broadcast media writing, you'll find that they starts with the familiar thing, and then they proceed on to the unfamiliar one, because in order to capture the listener, in order to attract the listener and keep them for long to their 5 minutes long duration of news, it is very important that the reporter, he first of all gives the familiar figure in order to keep their listeners or the viewers stick to the television screen. Whereas in the print media, you'll find that it starts with the unfamiliar one, and the reader, if he or she wills, he or she will go through the story, and if he or she do not want to go by that very time, he or she may again come back and then again follow the story. Whereas it is not possible for the broadcast media, and that is why they follows this strategy of going from familiar to unfamiliar one. So one example has been given here. For example, in the print media writing, Naomi Johnson, 34, of Pine City, was killed last night when her car ... So this is how the story followed in case of the print media, where we do not know, the reader do not know about the Naomi Johnson, but the news writer, he or she tried to give some description of this unfamiliar figure by starting with her age, right? That she is of 34 years of age. So it is like familiarizing the unfamiliar. So starting with the unfamiliar face, but then trying to familiarize that. Whereas in case of the broadcast media writing, the same reporting of the same event, the lead follows like this: that sharp curve on Highway 64 has claimed another victim. So the same event, the same incident that had occurred, it was not reported just like the print media reported in the broadcast media. In the broadcast media, they had not mentioned about the name of the victim. They had not bothered, they did not bother about the age, what is the age of the victim. They directly started with the very familiar thing, which is about the location where the accident had occurred. So, and that's how they got started with their lead. That sharp curve on Highway 64 has claimed another victim. Number 6, there is a difference, there is this kind of lead called umbrella lead, which is about putting putting all information, important information, in one go and putting it into the lead. And this is what a news writer for the print media do. Whereas in the broadcast media writing, you will not find that. Instead, they use item lead, where the most important part of all the important informations are put into the lead, and then that is followed by the remaining information in the succeeding paragraphs. So there is an example of a similar same event, which is how it was reported in the print media and later how it is reported in the broadcast media. You'll find the difference by going through both the example. For example, in case of the print media writing, the lead followed like this: the Pin City School Board last night ordered studies of the danger from asbestos in city schools, complaints from parents about unsafe such buses, and possible savings that would result from closing Lincoln Elementary School. So many of information you'll find in this lead. This all the informations are being put in the very lead of the print media news report. Whereas in case of the same event, when it was reported for the broadcast media, it followed like this: the Pine City School Board has ordered a study of possible dangers from asbestos in city schools. So they've kept the sentences short, they have limited the information, they have try to keep the other remaining information for the later paragraphs. Number 7, there is this kind of lead which is also called delayed lead. So delayed lead is something not coming directly to the point. You will find such kind of lead in most of the print media writing, where the reporter beat by the bush. They just go around and around and then come to the point. I mean that the delayed lead is about delaying the lead. The reporter, the news writer, they will come to the lead at a later stage. First they will try to explain about they will try to explain the surrounding, and then they will come to the point, which is not done in case of the broadcast media writing. In broadcast media writing, it is very important to start the very report with the lead, with the most important information. And if that information is inherited in a video tape, then a broadcast media writer, he or she may suggest that the story must begins with a video tab, because that may become the lead that will be parallelly followed by a script by the reporter. Number 8, in case of the print media, there is a concept called buried lead, where uh, uh, while just now I discussed about the delayed lead. So it is somehow related to the delayed lead itself, because lead gets delayed sometime very much. Lead gets delayed so much that reader finds it difficult to find out which is the most important point, most important information in this story. And such lead and such buried lead must be avoided while writing a copy for the news media, for the newspaper. Whereas in case of the broadcast media, we find that they do not have any sort of buried lead, but instead they start with a soft lead. Even if if they feel that, no, I do not want to begin this broadcast news with the very important information, so they can begin with a very soft lead, and then coming to the very important part of the story. There is an example for this, like, weeks of talks about where to locate the new football stadium ended this afternoon. So Bill Winter has the details, ... So this is how they start the lead. This is called a soft lead, and then they come to the important part of the story. Number 8, in case of the print media writing, you will not find that lead starts with question. There is no interrogation in the very lead of the print media writing, except in case of the feature stories, in the soft stories, where you'll find that some stories begins with the lead which is interrogative in nature. But most of the hard news that we find in case of the newspaper, they do not start with the question leads. But in soft stories, there may be presence of question leads. In case of the broadcast media, question leads are very rare. The broadcast media reporter, they do not they do not generally use the question leads in order to start their story with. In case of the print media, even you'll not find that lead starts with quotes of people, right? You'll find very rare. They are used, but they're not so common. They're not so common. You'll find very less stories where is, until and unless that quote is very important, significant, and the most important part of the story, and that story will not begin with quotes. So if the quote is very much important, very significant, then that quote can be used as a lead for that newspaper or news media writing. But in case of the broadcast media, quotes, leads starting with quotes are never used. Quotes are never used to get started with the lead. So these are the differences between the lead writing for both the newspaper writing and the television news writing. So in my next video I will discuss about the story writing structure, and the sentence structure, differences between the story and the sentence structure of the print and the broadcast media writing. So yeah, till then, thank you.